Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is March the 23rd, about 3 or 4 minutes after 2 o'clock. This meeting of the House Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee is now in session. Clerk, call the roll.
Representatives Cochran, Cooper, Darby, Doggett, Hardaway, Holsey, Hurt, Potts, Reedy, Rudder, Shaw, Todd, Travis, Vital, Wright, Vice Chairman Grills, Chairman Hoffert. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Personal orders. Anyone in personal orders? Representative Reedy.
Thank you, Chairman. And of course, today, many of our young people are job shadowing different members of the House and the Senate from Stewart County. I'd like to introduce my job shadow, Ansley, if you would, stand up. Ansley Elliott from Stewart County High School, soon to be a registered voter. Make her feel welcome.
Chairman Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I would just like to recognize a familiar face that we have, but fortunately, he has brought his better half, Mr. Richard Holland. He has brought Miss Georgette with him, and so we much appreciate you being here, so you can keep an eye on him and we don't have to.
Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we will proceed with our business. House Bill 2149 is the first bill on the calendar. Happens to be my bill, so I'm going to roll that to the heel of the calendar, and we will go on to item number 2, which is House Bill 2168 by Leader Lamberth. Leader Lamberth, you are recognized. I do have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this bill is very straightforward. It allows for within TDEC for the parks facilities to be able to keep a portion of the money that they're bringing in for facilities.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard an explanation of the bill. Are there questions for the sponsor? Questions been called on the bill. We will be voting to send House Bill 2168 to Finance, Ways, and Means. All in favor will say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Was that quick enough for you?
Mr. Chairman, I'll stay as long as y'all like. Thank you, sir.
Just checking. Next on our bill is on our calendar is House Bill 2740 by Representative Holtzclaw. Representative Holtzclaw, you are recognized. Do I have a motion and a second? Have a motion and a second. You are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman, committee.
I believe we have an amendment.
That's what I was getting ready to say. We got an amendment traveling with it. What's the number you're showing? What's the number you're showing on your amendment?
I show 15252.
Okay.
All right, sir. You may proceed on the amendment. We need to adopt the amendment first. Do I hear a motion and a second on the amendment? We are voting on the amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. We're back on the bill as amended.
Basically, thank you, Chairman. HB 2740 is a bill that will hopefully enhance our ability to promote the growth of a meat processing plant in the state of Tennessee. There's only currently 22 across our state. And, you know, we need, especially with this COVID, there's a major backlogs on as far as processing meat. If you were an individual that had a cow and wanted to go get it processed and you said, well, I want to sign up and get it processed, right now your waiting time could be up to 2 years to get it processed. And, you know, that's been an agriculture state. That's a pretty big concern for me. You know, I'll stop there and just take questions and see where we go from there.
You have heard an explanation of the bill as amended. Representative Shaw, you are recognized.
Thank you, sir. And if you'll notice my name tag there, sir.
You've changed on me.
Yes, I've changed. I did want to ask.
For the better, I might say.
Well,
See, that can go both ways.
Anyway. Seriously, what changed from last week in the bill?
Okay, basically, what changed was it took out the industrial parks. We took that whole section out. And the key thing here on the verbiage, it says, you know, it's located outside city limits or municipalities, and it has to be on agricultural land or land that is zoned or deemed as agricultural. So you're looking at that lower price land. You're not looking at high dollar land at all on this.
So there would be nothing in terms of, and I just want to get down there, like in a strip mall,
Correct.
areas like that. It would have to be only on ag land.
Correct.
Representative Shaw.
But there are a few places where maybe ag land runs up very close to city limits and so forth. How would that work?
And we try to take that into account too. The amendment that was put on in the Senate, it says anything, the county population has to be less than 360,000 people. So we try to get it down away from those major four cities.
Representative Shaw. Representative Halsey.
Thank you. And to the sponsor, I agree with you on the need for slaughterhouses, wholehearted. Right now, beef selling about, what, $1.15 on the hoof, and the grocery store is about $18 a pound for a steak. So somebody in the middle is getting a lot of money, and it's costing a lot of money. I got some questions, though. Trying to dig around a little bit, and then they've lit my computer up with emails on this. So I was trying to find out. I've been told, and I'm just asking for information, that this bill originates out of Loudoun County with one individual. And what I understand, the Loudoun County Commission has tried to work with this man. He wants to expand his own personal operation, and the bill states 100 cows a week.
A unit, or the unit is 100 cows, or 2 pigs, or 4 sheep a unit.
Okay, so that'd be it could be 100 cows, or it could be 200 hogs, or it could be 400 sheep. Mm-hmm. And one of the issues I was told was, they said, yeah, we'd be more than happy for you to do this, and we want you to do it, and we want you to grow, but to do that, you're going to kind of be becoming a commercial operation with that kind of numbers. And in order to do that, you need to enlarge your operation here and put a few things in, including going on the sewer system. And I understand that the guy didn't want to do that. Is there truth in that? Did I hear that correctly?
You may have heard that, but my intent here has nothing to do with that. It's just as far as meat processors across the state of Tennessee. That's my concern.
Okay.
Representative Halsey.
If that sewer is an issue in this particular case, I was looking up how much blood a cow has. Turns out the average cow has 10 gallons of blood. If you process 100 a week, that's 1,000 gallons of blood going into one septic system. I'm not sure that would fly, but I did have a bigger problem that I worried about with this bill. I think the 4 top metropolitan areas have been exempted out of it. Mm-hmm. But if in this particular case, if this bill passes, and an operation like this one becomes a commercial operation where they process that much meat, does this bill stop the property assessor from going out there and saying this is now commercial property and we're going to have to rezone this as commercial property? And as a result, that's going to change the whole tax structure and everything that goes with it. And as a result of it being changed, we get to regulate it. Does this bill stop that process?
At the point you have that cutoff there, that's the reason they put these limits around that 100 units.
Representative Halsey.
So with existing law, there is no limit on what a personal man can process for his personal consumption. But this bill sets a limit saying that anything over 100 cows a week can be regulated by a board.
Yes, you have to go commercial that way.
That's an awful lot of meat.
There's an awful lot of people hungry.
Representative Travis.
Thank you, sir. Representative Hochlau, is this running in the Senate? Has it been summer studied, as I've heard?
No,
in the
it's
Senate?
passed the Senate.
It has passed
Yes.
the Senate, so it's not summer study.
I think it's going to the floor. He's passed all the committees, so.
Thank you.
Other questions? Representative Grills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I checked my county out back home to see how they handle situations such as this, and we just had a processing plant open, and it was pretty much opened on a place just like you're setting up here, FAR proper zoning, and it's been working pretty much without a hitch as far as I understand. But my larger concern is over the past couple of years, we've seen food insecurity become an issue, especially where I am, because hamburger got to $6 or $7 a pound over where I was. Steaks were not on the shelf, nor chicken or anything of that nature, because of we were relying so heavily on the Midwest to produce our meat. Right now, if I wanted to get a cow slaughtered where I live, it would be out almost a year before I could get an appointment. You can have a calf and raise a calf before you can actually get an appointment to get it slaughtered. And anyhow, that's just a concern I have. This food security is a big deal. We talk about our energy independence all the time, but we have to have food in order to survive. And I appreciate some of the efforts. Now I know this may not be perfect. We've talked back and forth. Several of us, me and Representative Cochran, have talked back and forth about this, trying to figure out the best balance of it. I'm still not 100% sure I know what the best balance is, but I do appreciate your effort going forward, trying to handle some of these issues and tackle some of these issues instead of kicking the can down the road.
Yeah. Thank you.
Other questions for the sponsor on the bill as Representative Cochran?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to the sponsor, I agree with my colleague. Obviously, that we saw during the pandemic, what an issue, being able to find someone to process your beef. And the part that I've been a little bit torn about is just trying to make sure that I have all the information necessary to make that decision. Like Representative Halsey, I had kind of, I'd heard about the Loudoun County situation, that, maybe that there had been an impasse there. They couldn't reach an agreement because of some local zoning. And then in Representative Grill's case, where they do have, in agriculturally zoned areas there, that it's allowed. Do you know the difference in that? So I guess, would your bill be necessary in all counties across the state? Or I guess mine is a more specific zoning question. In most counties right now that have agricultural zoning, would they allow this anyway, or do you know?
Representative Holsclaw.
I wish I could answer that truthfully. I mean, that's a yes and no answer. I mean, I can't answer forever. Some counties don't even have zoning. So, but what this does is that Haslam took away that department that kind of dictated to your commissioners and stuff about zoning, and this is kind of we're putting guardrails on it, but what's the perfect answer? I don't know. I'm just trying to get something done to where we can get this process started.
Representative Cochran.
That's all. Thank you.
Anyone else? Representative. Yes.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Doggett.
What is the process currently in these counties that have a zoning? Is there a zoning board that an individual would go before that?
They can either zone to, like the particular one that they keep mentioning that, I could care less. The fact that he can process as many cows as he wants, as long as he keeps them on his property. But he can't bring somebody else's cattle over and process with him. So, I mean, that's a moot point to me. You're processing this many anyway. What's it matter if it's this one or this one? So.
Representative Doggett.
That's right. Well, I'm just trying to wrap my head around the current process right now. If there's a zoning board in place, if they're made up of...
It varies across the state.
Right.
I mean,
Not every county has county zoning, and the ones that do, if their boards are made up of county commissioners that are elected by the people, and the people have said they don't want a slaughterhouse or processing plant there in their area, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
They still want to eat hamburgers and
Sure.
steaks. And,
Gentlemen, we need to stay away from running debate here. So
Sorry about that.
no problem. Representative Holsclaw. Representative Doggett.
Oh, I'm fine. Thank you.
Representative Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Representative Halsey mentioned something a while ago that sparked a thought that I hadn't really considered here because I see it automatically in my day-to-day life, and that is with the septic system. Obviously, to me, in a rural area, that's going to be a limiting factor. Without zoning or anything else, that in itself physically will limit these operations because they will not be able to pollute no matter what they're doing.
They meet all the requirements of.
So that, to me, gives me some comfort. I'm certainly on the side of the food security and making sure that we stay food independent. I don't want to be relying on somebody else to ship food in to feed our people. So that's a big deal, and I know in the last 2 years that's really come to the forefront with a lot of us that have looked for, as Representative Grills mentioned, a place to get meat processed and just couldn't find it within a reasonable amount of time. So I think that point was made very well, that the septic system will limit these, and most of the time in these areas, there's not public sewer. So I don't think they're going to be able to get very big. I'm not even sure they could do 100 units, quite frankly, with any kind of a normal septic system, but they will have to comply with those environmental laws. So thank you, sir.
Representative Hoslow, did you have a follow-up?
No, sir.
Other questions? Seeing none, without objection, we'll be voting on House Bill 2740. Hearing none, all in favor will say aye. All opposed say no. Ayes have it. You are headed to calendar and rules.
Thank you, sir.
Next on our calendar is House Bill 2560 by Representative Terry. You are recognized, Representative Terry.
Thank you, Chairman of the Committee, and I'd ask for
Can I get a motion and a second on the bill?
Right. Thank you.
I
And
have a
there's
motion and a second. I believe we have an amendment on this bill.
Yes, sir. 014106.
All right. I need a motion and a second on the amendment. Have a motion and a second on the amendment. We're back on the bill as amended. You may continue, sir.
All right. Thank you. This bill, this amendment would allow a party involved in either a review proceeding or judicial proceeding involving a proposed landfill or expansion of a landfill to request that the case be heard in a court of the county in which the landfill or the expansion is located, and there's a process so they have to do that within 60 days. Be happy to answer any questions.
Chairman Todd.
I mainly just have a comment about this because I've got a long history with environmental laws. I used to work for TDEC many, many moons ago. And I know at that time, I always thought it was kind of odd that in our regulatory process, if something was appealed beyond the board, it would go to Chancery Court in Davidson County. And I always thought that was kind of odd. I never did really know the reason behind that. But as I understand, all the environmental laws and regulations do that. That if it's air pollution, if it's water pollution, if it's solid waste, radiological health, all of those things can get appealed, and it's to one location. It's Chancery Court in Davidson County. And as I've inquired about that, I've learned recently that the reason for that is because, as you can imagine, your local court isn't going to have any inkling of what to do with one of these cases. They're not going to have any experience with them. They're not going to know any details about it. They're going to have to be educated as best they can in a very short period of time. Davidson County Chancery Court, though, sees these routinely, and so that's, I think I've learned that's why it was written into the law many years ago to do that. And so for that reason, I'm not for moving these out of Davidson County for that reason and one other, because I think certainly when you get it to a local municipality, those judges are running for re-election every so often as well, and it's going to become pretty politicized. And so I think there's really good reason to leave it alone where it is right now. And I appreciate you bringing this, and I know your efforts are tireless. And you've, as I mentioned to you a little while ago, if I'm ever in a fight, I want to be on your side. I want you on my side. But because you've been a real fighter to work and get something for your citizens. I'm just not sure this is the right thing to do because it will have statewide implications and not just one particular municipality. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other questions for Representative Terry? Did you have a response?
Yeah, thank you. And as I was, obviously, those that are on subcommittee and that y'all have seen me here before, as I've talked with TDEC and other attorneys on this issue, this was something that came up in not just on this but on other bills dealing with landfills and expansions, and that was part of my question was why was it in Davidson County? And at the time, there was no no answer that I was given. That being said, I do think, if justice is blind and that you do have it in that court, the issue really is dealing for those that are in that local community. It impacts them. They may be a party in one of these proceedings. Therefore, from their perspective, the travel with gas prices going out the roof, this, that, and the other, I do think a court in a local community that is impacted by this or that has that landfill, those constituents, for them to be able to best be heard and to travel and this, that, and the other, they need this legislation. So that's why I brought this.
Other questions for Representative Cochran?
Thank you, Mr. And to comment on that a little bit further, just to the sponsor there, I think we've in recent years we've passed legislation, and I apologize, my recall is not perfect on this, but I think it was regarding some election lawsuits. We moved that out of the Davidson County jurisdiction for similar reasons that you were stating, that maybe that's not, that they are not always the best court of jurisdiction for every election issue. Maybe that's not always in the best interest of the folks bringing a particular suit. And so I think it makes sense to keep it local, since that is that's affecting local folks. Again, regardless, your hope would be that justice is blind, but I don't know that every decision should be made in Davidson County when it's affecting people in other communities. So I think what you're doing makes sense.
Representative Terry, do you?
Thank you.
Representative Halsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a couple of comments and then a question. As I understand it, you can apply for a change of venue now under existing law. If this bill passes, there is no discretion anymore. It will go to the judge in the county that the landfill's in, and the only problem I got with that is my judge don't want to hear those kinds of things. I'll just tell you. The question I had was, it shows that this bill has been deferred to summer study in the Senate, and I know that you responded to that and said that it would reopen. The people in the Senate side that I have talked to have said, no, it won't reopen. Do you have a conclusive answer on that?
That is thank you. Great question. That was something I sent y'all an email, and I think I attached the letter to the email, and that was something that my understanding is that they signed a letter that they would reopen to hear this, or that they wanted to reopen the committee and reconsider their action of the bill, and the chairman did sign this. That being said, in subcommittee, it was not my intent to move the bill or to present the bill to you guys until they took action in the Senate. Obviously, this is y'all's last committee, and my understanding is that they gave their time to other committees so that they could close those other committees, and then when those other committees finished and that time became available for the rooms, that they would reconsider and reopen. So that's my understanding of the situation. If you guys are so favorable as to pass this bill out, if they don't take action over there, I'm not going to put it on calendar. I mean, it is what it is. I'm in the situation because here we are. This committee's closing, and but anyway, to answer your question, that's my honest answer.
Follow up, Representative Halsey. Chairman Todd.
Just one last comment about something that was summarized a while ago about other election-related issues being transferred out of Davidson County. Excuse me, that was, I remember that debate quite well, and that was purely a political move because we obviously know the bias politically when it comes to something with elections that we would have in a municipality like this. And I think that was kind of totally different in circumstances and different set of reasoning. But as has already been mentioned, the expertise, and I can imagine most of these judges would never want to hear one of these cases and be put in that position because of, again, their lack of knowledge of the situation, their lack of expertise, but also how in the world would they ever have a fair trial. But So I think kind of apples and oranges there, but certainly appreciate the comments.
Ladies and gentlemen, we need to back up and get in the proper position here. I don't believe we ever voted on the amendment, so I need a motion and a second on the amendment. And then we'll be voting to add the amendment to House Bill 2560. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say no. Ayes have it. We're now in the proper position. I don't have anybody else on my list. Representative Grills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman Terry, I've been here for 2.5 years now, and this seems to be something we're dealing with over and over again about this particular landfill. And obviously, the life expectancy is pretty short for what's there. We have 34 counties dumping their trash into that landfill. And maybe this is not the time to ask it, but I'm going to. What's the plan? I mean, if this landfill is not expanded, what's the plan? Where are we going? We've got a problem and it's got to be addressed, and maybe that's.
Representative Terry.
All right. Great question. And with your liberty, I will explain that currently I would submit that there are 5 Class 1 landfill permits in the state of Tennessee that are, my understanding, are currently active. Somebody just needs to make use of those permits. It may require a public-private partnership with the state, potentially to get something set up like with that. We have $10 billion in our in excess right now that we're working on a budget for. We may have extra next year. I mean, last year we had, we put $20 million towards something in another county. It may take something like that to do that, whether it's in Middle Tennessee, East Tennessee, or whatever. Get one of those, utilize one of those permits with some state funding to help set something like that up. And if a particular landfill closes in 6 years, 6.5 years, and it takes 4 years, 5 years from start to finish to open one up, action's got to be taken, and whether it's now or next year, but it's got to be taken the next couple of years. And so there are options out there. We just have to have the will to do that.
Representative Grills.
I understand that, but where's the closest one now? You say there's 5 in the state. How far are they in proximity to where this one is located?
Great question. I have asked for that information and have not received that yet before I was here to present.
Representative Grills.
In my district, one of the garbage processors has gone bankrupt, and they have quit picking up the garbage on the side of the road. And I'm sure you know what it's like to get calls about stuff that's strode everywhere. But that become more of an issue than I ever thought it would be. And I'm afraid if we get to the point where this landfill is no longer in use because a court shut it down or it's filled up to its entirety and it's shut down, and we don't have other options, you just don't know how many calls you're going to get. You're going to want, thinking you can fix it, and they're going to be fussing and complaining about the other options that they don't have. And obviously, this may be one of those things that we need to look at even more serious. I know we've talked about it year after year since I've been here, but it's got to be addressed one way or the other. However that's done, I don't know, but kudos to you for always being an advocate for your folks, but I don't know if this is the best way to approach it.
Representative Terry.
And to your point, that the particular landfill that you're talking about, there are potential irregularities with contracts with the county in that, and so that landfill may have a shorter lifespan because of the contract issues. So it may need to be taken action with that sooner rather than later.
Representative Grills.
I'm done. Thank you.
Other questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, without objection, we'll be voting to send House Bill 2560 to Calendar and Rules. All in favor will say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. No. Noes have it.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
Next bill on our list is House Bill 2832. Representative Lafferty, you are recognized. Oh, That's right, it's off notice, I'm sorry. That's why he wasn't here and I was looking for him. All right, that moves us to House Bill 0715. Representative Hurt, you are recognized. Have a motion and a second on the bill. We do have an amendment. Could you give me the tracking number on that amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I have 015728.
That's correct, and I have a motion and a second on the amendment. We'll be voting to add the amendment. All in favor will say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. We're back on the bill as amended. Representative Hurt, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 715 seeks to protect hemp producers who create a non-compliant product with greater than 0.3% THC through the concentration process. It allows them to move the product with up to 5% THC to a manufacturing facility for the purposes of remediation and creating compliant products for consumers. It's already passed the Senate, and then this is the legal protection that our industry needs and will legitimize the industry, open the door for industrial oil production, result in the increased scalability of manufacturing facilities we have in our state. We have accepted an amendment from the Department of Safety to satisfy their issues with the bill. That amendment requires a person transporting to maintain proof of a grower's license from the department in the transport vehicle. So what we've got, members, is a lot of times with the first stage of extracting oil from a hemp plant, it becomes extremely concentrated. And from that point, there are a lot of producers that only take that first step, and from there, they sell it or transport it to another facility, which refines it more and brings it back into legal. They remediate, a lot of them remediate the THC completely out of it, but a lot of them, in other cases, for it to be legal, they bring it back down to be put in a product that is legal. So basically, we're just trying to protect our producers in transporting the product from when it's in a crude state to a facility to be refined further. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll take any questions.
You've heard the explanation of the bill as amended. I do have questions for the sponsor on the bill as amended.
Question on the bill.
Question's been called on the bill. We'll be voting to send House Bill 715 to Calendar and Rules. All in favor will say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Ayes have it. Calendar and Rules. That brings us to House Bill 1690, number 7 on our calendar. It's also by Representative Hurt. Representative Hurt, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also have an amendment on this one.
Yes, sir. What do you show as the amendment number?
016281.
That's what I have. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to get the amendment on. Do I hear a motion and a second on the amendment? Motion. Second. Have a motion and a second. We'll be voting to add the amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. We're back on the bill as amended. Representative Hurt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 1690 prevents the purchase of Delta 8 products to anyone, let me rephrase that, I apologize, of various hemp products, including Delta 8 and Delta 10, and there are other cannabinoids that are listed in the list here, but it prevents purchase of these products to anyone under 21, prevents access to these products to persons under 21 without supervision by a parent or court-appointed guardian, creates a schedule of hemp-derived cannabinoids to be subjected to age limitation and to the privilege tax, 6.6% on wholesale purchases. And it requires a license to wholesale or retail these products, which is $200 annually. And I think we have some folks here to speak on this bill, Mr. Chair, and with that, I would ask that we hear them. Thank you.
We will go out of session. I believe the person you want to testify now is Mr. Joe Kirkpatrick. Is that correct? Mr. Kirkpatrick, you may come forward. You are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Please
Thank you
give
to
us
the
your
sponsor and the
name
members of the committee.
record. Please give us your name for the record.
Oh, Joe Kirkpatrick, Tennessee Growers Coalition. I think we visited, or Kelly or Jesse won, we visited everybody about this. We've done a lot of, we've been working on this since last summer. We've got it in correct posture for revenue and the correct posture for ag. I think I really don't have a whole lot of additional information, Mr. Chairman. I would be glad to answer any questions.
Are there questions for Mr. Kirkpatrick? Representative Cochran, did you ask to be recognized? Sorry. Representative Halsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for being here. Yeah, we talked about this in my office, and I'm in favor of the bill and what it's trying to do. I worry about a few things. I didn't realize when we talked before, and I shouldn't be so ignorant about it, but in my head at the very beginning, Delta 9, of course, I knew you could get high on, but I didn't think you could get high on Delta 8 and Delta 10, but yeah, you can. And I'm worried just about part of this bill that there is, unless it happens or you can explain it to me that it will happen, I worry about making sure that the concentration levels of Delta 8 in gummy bears, for example, are not at a place that people can get high or their children can get high by taking them. Now, and you might explain also, if you've got a certain amount that's equal in each gummy bear, and you don't eat one, you don't get high, but if you eat 10, you will. I don't know if that's how it works in that particular compound, but if you can explain that and tell me what we're doing or going to do under this bill that limits the amount of Delta 8 and 10 concentration in products, and who's going to keep up with it, and that it will be kept up with, and exactly who processes that to make sure that those limits are not exceeded.
Mr. Kirkpatrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative Halsey. You know, there's a study here that was done by in Israel back in 1976 on Delta 8, where it shows that Delta 8 is 1/4 has 1/4 of the psychoactive effect of Delta 9. Certainly, these products, and the reason we do want to make them 21 plus is, you know, they are federally legal, they are legal in the state, and they have been in wide distribution. I think estimates go anywhere from $75 million to $100 million of these products are sold annually in Tennessee now, and we've created this where this can primarily be dealt with in the rulemaking process, because there is a lot of information that's got to be taken into consideration with regard to serving size and what is suitable. Certainly, there are products out there that I believe personally are too strong for the average person coming in off the street. You know, and one question Representative Cochran had, and when we heard this in subcommittee, is that are convenience stores the ideal place to sell this? And actually, you know, to a large degree, they are, because their employees are already trained to ID customers for cigarettes, for beer, for vaping products, for Kratom, a lot of other products that are out there on the market that have these kind of effects. And, you know, so are we, you know, are we specifically handling a whole lot of this in the legislation? No, we wanted to keep it as simple as possible so that the regulators could actually regulate.
Representative Halsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Going forward, is there, through the rule-making process, through the Department of Agriculture, I guess that's what I'm getting at, are we going to solve that? I mean, are we going to pursue that?
Yes, sir, absolutely. And I think, you know, some of a lot of safety concerns, and I'd seen Agent Farmer's presentation to law enforcement back during the summer in Jackson, where he was, you know, showing products that were being marketed to children. And certainly, that, you know, even if they are 21 plus, we also need to have some regulations on how you know, that they can't be marketed to mimic like Skittles or Doritos or things like that, because that certainly, even if it's 21 plus, it's going to be done to appeal to children. So we need very strict labeling, you know, warning labels that these products are psychoactive, and that they need to be, you know, that they need to be handled with care, and we shouldn't be operating machinery or driving under these. And certainly we support all the laws that are in place for impaired driving and so on and so forth, and don't think, you know, and we've actually created a Class B misdemeanor for violation of this chapter. So if somebody's selling this to underage people or don't have a license to sell it, they can be prosecuted. So, you know, we've tried to put some teeth in the bill, and thank the sponsor for doing that with us.
Follow up, Representative Halsey.
Listen, I'm through. I'm not against your bill at all. It's wide open right now, so we have to do something. I want to make sure at the end of the day that we do regulate to the place we should, that we put the stops where we're supposed to, that the Department of Agriculture is going to be able to put rules in place that puts us where it should be. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, you're recognized.
And we have worked, and to finish off on that, we've worked really hard with Ag to actually simplify this bill, so they're not stepping on their, we're not trying to create redundant regulations here. That's something we've been really careful about in the past, and that's what we're trying to do now. We're just trying to make sure that everything meets food safety guidelines that are already in place.
Representative Doggett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being with us and speaking with the committee today. You said something, I had a list of questions here I've been writing down, but you said something my colleague to my left here brought up in response to him. Employees of these stores, retail operations that sell this, is there training right now that they go through in this process on who to sell to, or what do you have anything you can share with us about that?
You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Doggett, there's not anything specific in the code. There's not anything specific in the rules. Certainly, we would be open to that in rules, making sure that those are in place. But I think a lot of these programs, these convenience stores, they have software to handle the taxation piece. They do already card for cigarettes and alcohol. So I don't think it's that big of a stretch to suggest that could be done. But I'm not saying that they do exist. No, sir, I'm not.
Representative Doggett.
Okay, thank you. You had mentioned that employees were trained, and I was just curious to know if there was a process in place right now for training of individuals that work in the stores, that when someone comes in to purchase this stuff, that they can recognize certain indicators or markers whether or not this person is under the influence of something at this time, or and so forth. So thank you for that. What my couple questions here for you: does this legislation contain any maximum percentages in specifically for like Delta 8 THC, Delta 10 THC, or those products? Is there anything in this bill that
Mr. Kirkpatrick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Doggett, no, presently not, and there are no federal guidelines on this through the Farm Bill. Certainly, we could be subjected to those guidelines. The state does have the authority to put those in. We haven't attempted to do this. The only we have a letter from Stephen Vaden, the former general counsel under Trump's U.S. Department of Agriculture, that says that no cannabinoids derived from hemp are subject to scheduling under the Controlled Substances Act, other than Delta 9. So, we really haven't offered any numbers, but those products are out there. I mean, there have been some adverse effects. I did bring a study showing that by Mechoulam in Israel, 480 doses of Delta 8 were given to pediatric cancer patients from 3 to 13 years old, and vomiting was completely prevented, and the side effects observed were negligible. I think that, this study was from 1995, so this compound Delta 8 has been around a long time. It's had some research done on it in other countries. I know that Israel is in the process right now of completely decriminalizing cannabis, and I think it's probably. I'm projecting again, but I think it's headed that way here, and certainly, we're waiting for action from the feds, and we don't know where it is, and they may redefine in the the way I understand it is the Farm Bill is actually not going to run in 2022 this year. It's going to be 2023 before it runs. But I would expect some more guidance from the federal government in redefining hemp, perhaps even at 1% total THC. And maybe, I don't know if these additional cannabinoids are going to be encapsulated in that new definition of hemp. I can't answer that question, but it's a fair question.
Representative Doggett.
So right now, is there any restrictions on THC levels in Delta 9?
Yes, sir. In a finished product, it can't contain more than 0.3% by weight.
Representative Doggett.
But there is nothing in Delta 8 or Delta 10?
There is nothing. No, sir, there's not.
Representative Doggett.
My last question for you is, would this bill, I guess it would require the Department of Ag to regulate the THC amounts or contents, is that correct?
Mr. Kirkpatrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. They have the authority to do that, yes, sir, already. The main reason behind the financial aspect of this is this provides the funding that they need to be able to hire the staff to do the enforcement.
Follow up, Representative Doggett.
That's it. Thank you.
Representative Hurt, did you need to be recognized?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to make one comment in response to earlier question from my colleague above me here. And Joe touched on it just then that, we do have the fiscal note updated. I think in sub, Joe had alluded to, we thought it was low. We did work with fiscal review, and now the fiscal note is up around $3.8 million. And our goal with that is to allow the department to create standards and testing procedures in order to bring quality and serving sizes, recommended serving sizes and required serving sizes to the industry, because right now it's out there. So this does create the financial side of things in order to establish the industry and do the testing that needs to be done. So I did want to respond to that.
Representative Grills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Kirkpatrick, a while ago, I believe you were the dialogue with the Chairman Doggett over there. You used the word compound. What exactly do you mean when you talk about compound? It's like, if you don't mind, whenever you were using in that sense.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the context.
Well, I wish I could remember the exact wording, but it was along the lines of how you were mixing it together and the finished product there and elaborate on that, please.
Okay,
Mr. Kirkpatrick.
Well, yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. When these products are made, there's a certificate of analysis from a lab, generally a third-party lab that is DEA certified as required by the Farm Bill in order to make these products. If you're going to you have to have, for each batch of distillate, you would need an accurate mass spec or HPLC level certificate of analysis in order to be able to do the math when you compound these products. So yes, when you're talking about manufacturing these products, obviously you have to balance the grams of total product versus the milligrams or grams of these compounds, these cannabinoids.
Representative Grills.
Like guaranteed analysis, or I would assume. One other thing, for the last 10 years, we've been talking about, I say 10 years, maybe longer than that. We've talked about medical marijuana, recreational marijuana, and then hemp is going to be able to come in and fix all of our problems without having the side effects that the marijuana would get you high and all the concerns there. And I am terrified of any door that might open to make it recreational marijuana something that would be, readily available here in our state. And up here at the summary of this bill, or possesses products containing intoxicating cannabinoids. Have I just been misled, or have I just been naive for the past 10 years to think that hemp can't get you high, won't get you high, but you have all the qualities that medical marijuana may have, and hemp's going to give those to you, and you don't have to worry about getting high. And now we're talking about being intoxicated by some of these, by hemp and some of the other things. Maybe I confused you a little bit, but
Mr. Kirkpatrick.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. We're not. If you'd asked me back in 2016, when I first started lobbying for this industry. I didn't know these things. In fact, it actually was a conversation that I had with Mr. Music with then at TBI, now with the sheriffs. He said, Joe, CBD can be turned into THC. And I was like, seriously? And I didn't know. I really didn't. But, you know, these studies have existed for decades, and these compounds have been known, and I have to assume that the people that wrote the federal farm bill knew that this could be done. I mean, and again, the DEA is out there saying that these products are legal under federal law, and so is USDA. So I can't really, as I'm in the position that I have to tell the truth, the whole truth, as I completely know it, and I'm not allowed to obfuscate what things are. So we have a record of running good legislation. We have a record of running legislation that's been upheld in federal appeals court, like with the Operation Candy Crush down in Rutherford County. You know, the laws we worked with back then for consumer use of these products were upheld, and certainly we're trying to run something now that is airtight. So I can't really characterize, you know, whether you've been fooled or not. But one good thing is that this money, and Representative Hurt actually mentioned that we've gotten the fiscal note more in line with reality. What we really haven't gotten in line is it could be double or triple that number, because sales, if we have a regime in place to guarantee that children don't get these products legally and that they are food grade safe products, sales are going to explode. So, you know, we could be seeing, you know, I'd estimated that not only would this privilege tax double, but also the sales tax related to the sales would double, which would put us at about $14.3 million positive the first year. So, you know, I know there's an effort out there to recriminalize this product, and I just would say that we're here. We have the big drawback has been, are these products federally legal? Law enforcement doesn't want to violate federal law in enforcement. These products, you know, Delta 8 is scheduled if it's derived from marijuana. If it's derived from hemp, it's not subject to scheduling. So, you know, we've seen some conflicting opinions and things like that, but there's no doubt that it's federal, and I need to wrap it up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Holder, did you have another question?
I've said that was the last one, but this one more. The TBI had concerns about it, and I am embarrassed that I cannot remember anymore what their concerns were. Johnny Shaw told me that alcohol consumption can cause memory loss, and worse than that, it can cause memory loss. So I do know the TBI had some concerns about it, and I was going to ask, have you looked at addressing what those were?
Well, Mr. Kirkpatrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, we've tried to leave this open where they can participate like everybody else in the rulemaking process.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't have anyone else on my list here. Representative Shaw.
Thank you, not because my name was called, because this is my partner over here. I guess I've been listening to the testimony, and I think we have all of the mechanisms in place to control this and for farmers to do well with it if we make an effort to do that, if everybody do their job. And what I found out is some folks just don't want to do their job. They want to make it easy. We got a TBI. Let's let our TBI to go to work, do the job, make sure that it is legal. We got it in record. We got it in code. And that's what they are supposed to do. And I mean, if we can pass legislation to put slaughterhouses anywhere, we ought to be able to pass something for our farmers to make some money off of. We talk about consumption. We talk about doing our own thing. Let's do our own thing. That's the way I see it. I appreciate you bringing the legislation. And I'm in favor of the legislation.
Representative Doggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do apologize because I'm not on the subcommittee and I miss a lot of the conversation that occurred. But you keep talking, I've heard you mention a few times about the rulemaking process. Can you elaborate? What is that? What does that look like in regards to this bill?
Well, the department makes suggested rules, and then there's a public comment period on them. There's a lot of consultation that goes on prior to them issuing a draft rule, the draft rules for the program. So what we've done, I believe we've put in a clause at the end there that we've been asked by Revenue to push this out because of their, will take them longer than it will Ag to implement their part of the strategy here. But this summer, when the rulemaking process begins, then that's where outside groups or members themselves or law enforcement have the opportunity to try to work on specifics and how this could be managed best. Certainly, I don't have all the answers on that.
Representative Doggett.
But those rules will be based off of current statutes, correct? That these rules will not supersede current state law.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Chairman Doggett, no. In fact, that has been agriculture's main concern, is that we don't do anything. The risk of violating federal law is we could have the charter revoked by USDA of our hemp program.
Representative Doggett.
Thank you. I wasn't in reference to federal law. I was referring to state law as far as not superseding state law.
Mr. Kirkpatrick.
Chairman Doggett, we have no interest in superseding state law. And in fact, we're here today to try to get as far as we think we need to be in order to get postured correctly for these rules. So no, sir, I don't think, we're trying to work within the letter of the law here, is what we're trying to do.
Any follow-ups, Representative Doggett?
Thank you.
Representative Hardaway. Ladies and gentlemen, we're getting short on time. We have some other bills here. To close this committee today. So Representative Hardaway, would you do me a favor?
Yes, sir. I'll be very brief. Are you saying that TBI is okay with the bill? I heard you reference rules and promulgating rules.
I've not said TBI is okay with this bill. Representative Hardaway, no, sir. I don't know. They haven't. I don't know if they're going to testify or if they've issued guidance, but I assume they're against it.
Follow up, Representative Hardaway.
Well, with the time restraints, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see TBI nod their head or shake their head.
Their nose.
Is that sufficient, Representative Hardaway? It is, sir. I have no one else on my list. I would assume that you are ready to vote. So that. So
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you. So we have someone, I believe, from TBI that would like to speak on this bill.
We figured we'd make it easy and both of us just come up together for y'all.
If that's suitable for you, Chairman.
So who's going to speak?
We were going to let Ms. Stroker from Safety go first, if that's all right with you,
You are
Chairman.
recognized.
Elizabeth Stroker, Legislative Director for the Department of Safety. I'm glad the rule issue was brought up. It's my understanding that the rule language is permissive language, that the Department of Ag has the authority to promulgate rules. I don't see where it's shall. I could have missed that, but I think it is permissive. Additionally, in my experience with rules, but there may be people in this committee who may know better, the statute has specific caps when it comes to what can and cannot be allowed. I am not aware of a situation where you would be able to go in and add THC caps to the law through a rule. I don't think that would be authorized. That may be a better question for the Government Operations Committee, but I don't see how that could be allowed to be done through rules, which is why we have asked that it be put into the statute. And I'm happy to hear Mr. Kirkpatrick say that they'd be happy putting something in. He said even maybe at 1%. We've offered that language to have the THC caps put in, and that would actually make us deferred on the bill if we could have those caps put in for the Delta 8 and Delta 10, just as the Delta 9 is. And that is our only concern with the bill. We like the regulation, the other requirements around it, and we're simply asking that the THC caps be put in because it is not something that can be done through rulemaking hearing. And so we would prefer that be in the statute just like it is for Delta 9. And that's where our opposition comes from.
Questions for Ms. Stroker? Seeing none? Representative Hardaway.
Thank you, Chairman, and good afternoon, ma'am. Have you offered an amendment for the bill?
We have, yes.
Okay. And was it accepted?
If the language that we wanted was not accepted, no.
Okay. So the bill, as you see it now, the concerns are such that you're not sure whether it will meet federal standards?
Ms. Stroker.
The question is not federal standards. There are no federal caps like there are for Delta 9. It's completely up to the states what it could be. And so this bill has it to where the THC content for Delta 8 and 10 could be 100%, whereas with Delta 9, it's 0.3. We would ask that that same cap be put in for Delta 8 and Delta 10. As Mr. Kirkpatrick said, that they would be open to putting those caps in. We believe it is more appropriate that it go into the statute, because I do not believe that you could put that into a rule, because that is language that traditionally would be put into the code itself. So it would maybe get turned down through the rulemaking process.
Representative Hardaway.
Thank you, Chairman. And rules can change. Statute has to come back through the legislature.
Correct, but rules cannot address things that need to be in the statute.
So the rules are promulgated within the language of the statute.
If they were to be promulgated, yes, but I don't see where it is required that they be promulgated.
Follow up, Representative Hardaway.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's it. And I've been on GovOps all my life as a little boy. But I've never seen where rulemaking was optional. So that gives me concern. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Representative Travis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Elizabeth, I want to go back to what you just said. You said you offered a 0.1, but everything else is a 0.3 federally level, correct?
I said that we offered that it be 0.3 consistent with Delta 9, but Mr. Kirkpatrick said that he would even be good with maybe putting it at 1 if that were decided through rulemaking. But I do not believe legally that you could put that into a rule. I think it is something that would have to go into a statute, just based on how statutory construction and statutes versus rules have to be handled. I absolutely could be wrong, but in my experience with the rules, it's more appropriate it be in statute. So if they are willing to put it in the rules, we just ask that why not we go ahead and just put it into the statute to make everyone comfortable. That would move us to comfortable with the bill.
Representative Travis.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Gentlemen, as our usual rule, when we have multiple presenters, we allow one to speak for the group. Unless you have something that you feel may have been missed here, I would allow a short.
Thank you, Chairman. Patrick Powell with the TBI. I will speak briefly. With me is Tommy Farmer, who's Director of the Dangerous Drug Task Force. He has an overwhelming experience with Delta 8 and this kind of topic, so I would ask that he be available for questions, but I'll make the short statement if that's all right, Chairman. Ultimately, TBI has similar concerns to safety. The representative, Hurt, the sponsor, was kind enough to meet with us. We discussed possibility of setting kind of a 0.3 cap across the board, treating THC the same across the board. I don't believe that was well received. I know he was willing to consider it. We appreciate that. Thank you, Representative. But ultimately, we weren't able to reach a middle ground on that. So that does drive our concern about the bill. Again, we're fine with the regulation aspect, we're fine with the age limit. Those aspects we are completely fine. We don't want this to be portrayed that we're not for the regulation side of this. Our concern is about that THC cap or lack thereof. And we would like to see it treated the same across the board, because we are seeing overdoses, they're non-fatal overdoses, but we're seeing overdoses from Delta 8. We're seeing this become an increasing problem throughout the state, and we would rather it be addressed now through statute than leaving it wide open.
Thank you, sir, ma'am, for being here. We appreciate that very much. We'll go back into session. Okay, I'm told that we have one more person that wants to testify. That is Evan Austin. Please give us your name for the record.
Thank you. My name is Evan Austell. I'm the president of Southern Biomedical Industries. We're a biomedical research company in Shelby County.
You are recognized, sir.
Thank you. Been before this body once, listened to a lot of different debate, and it's clear there is a lot of confusion about Delta 8. There's a lot of misunderstanding about Delta 8, and that kind of confusion and misunderstanding can lead to fear. But there's no reason we need to live in fear in Tennessee, because we've been here before and we can handle this. This is an agricultural issue. And with agriculture, we regulate. We regulate eggs, milk, gas at the pump. And we also regulate things like tobacco, alcohol, and firearms. And we know that nicotine is addictive and that people are going to die this year. Thousands of people die from heart disease and cancers caused by cigarettes. And you cannot grow a tobacco plant without having nicotine in it. But we don't ban the farming of tobacco. We don't make our farmers criminals. We know there will be thousands of alcohol-related deaths, car wrecks and otherwise. Well, we don't ban people from making Tennessee whiskey. We tax it so that there's money for oversight to ensure there's quality and we can do things responsibly. We don't take away our citizens' guns. We know thousands will die from gun deaths. We license them so that people that shouldn't have guns won't, and people that do should and can, because the upside outweighs the potential harm. And we can't legislate the harm out of our lives. And there's too much benefit here in the hemp plant. 5 years ago, we passed some of the best hemp laws in the country. Our growers are as good as any. We have as many licensed growers. Our products are top-notch, and people use these safe and effective products for their health and wellness. But I want to tell you about something else that no one is talking about. What we do at Southern Biomedical is use products like Delta 8 to get people off of opioids. And it works. We are supplying 12-step clinics to help people get through the abuse of opioids and weaning them off and getting them out of drug addiction. We've asked Shelby County for a share in the opioid settlement money for the role that the opioids companies had in this epidemic. We've asked Bill Lee for money in his budget to study how non-lethal, non-addictive therapies can get our citizens out of the grip and the cravings that lead to relapse and death from opioids. And if we're not studying it and regulating it and growing and learning and understanding it, we're taking away therapies like we use to save lives. And we're not benefiting what can be a great industry for our farmers for things that are not killing people. Overdoses without death is terrible. But in that same time, more people have died eating aspirin. But we cannot legislate fear and control away from people. We're Americans, we believe in personal freedom. And so let's make smart, responsible legislation that helps us study and regulate the harm that may exist. But no one's dying, and we're helping save lives. And if we're not going to do that, we're damning our citizens to a lifetime of addiction on things like Suboxone and methadone, therapies that have no end and are not a cure.
Sir, I'm going to interrupt here. I think you're giving us a sermon rather than answering some questions. So let's get to some questions if anyone has any questions for our guest here. Seeing none, we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
We're back. We will go back into session. We're back on the bill as amended. Are there any questions for the sponsor on the bill as amended? Representative Todd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I thank Representative Hurt for bringing this legislation, because he has seen that there are some issues out there that we all see on the street corners and we see in the convenience stores. And I think he's trying to put some kind of a reasonable cap on this that says at least we can't sell these products, even though they're federally legal, and they're legal already in state law, because they're hemp derived. We are not going to allow them to be sold to minors and anyone under 21. And so for that reason, I've certainly been entertained by this, but I would also like to see, as was mentioned earlier, a cap put on these products because they are intoxicating. There's no question about that. And I think that's the entire purpose of having a 0.3% limit on Delta 9 is because it's intoxicating. Well, they left out all the other deltas and all the other molecular changes that folks can do. And now, under what we have right now, because they're hemp derived, those are legal. People can get high on them. They're doing it right now. And I would rather see in this legislation, as I was trying to read it carefully a while ago, and I'm realizing that there's a definition that mentioned 0.1%, but it's talking about that from a definition of what you can sell or cannot sell to minors. It doesn't limit what you can sell to adults over 21. And so the other thing I also know is there's another piece of legislation moving. Leader Lamberth has one that will ban all of these products. From anything that can get you high, it's going to ban it. So I have at least some comfort there. And I like limiting this to adults, but I wish it did have that extra protection where it's 0.3% for any of these products for adults or minors. But it doesn't. But I do feel like some comfort is there that this other bill that's now moving will make it, and then we will regulate this like we're supposed to and like I feel like we need to. And so I've been real torn on this one. This is a tough one because I see some benefit out of it. I also see that it's leaving part of the door still open for people to abuse, and that does concern me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Doggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I will say that, the regulatory side of it, I am very supportive of, and I will echo the comments of my colleague to my left, as in, I would really like to see a cap put on the THC levels that come in this legislation. I understand that, and no disrespect or to the Department of Agriculture, and none whatsoever. Utmost respect for them. But in the way the legislation is written, that they have a very large part of the promulgating these rules. But I think there's a lot of things I don't want to depend on them to make rules. It's the duty of the legislature to act and to bring forth the laws for the Department of Ag to pull from to promulgate their rules. And so I think it's imperative that there is a cap in there. I know we talk about how much money this is going to generate to the state, but it is also my fear, as written, what we see bringing in as sales tax revenue, we are going to spend in incarceration costs across this state, because we're going to see, because you don't know the amounts that you get. It's of THC that you come in, and you will have persons driving under the influence of these drugs, even though they're perfectly legal here, and I understand that. But at the same time, you risk taking that chance. And I know that alcohol is regulated. I know tobacco is regulated, but I can tell you, never once did I ever charge someone for driving under the influence because they had smoked a pack of cigarettes. But drinking a 12-pack of beer, that's happened. Using drugs, illegal drugs, that's happened, but not off of nicotine. But I understand that it is regulated, and so I do support the concept of regulating of this. But I just wish that we had a more concrete stance in putting caps and limits on this as percentages going forward so that the Department of Ag could pull from to make their rules. Thank you.
Do you have a response, Representative Hurt? Representative Vital.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to prolong the discussion. I do want to say I appreciate you bringing the bill, Mr. Sponsor. I do appreciate those that have came to visit with me about this issue over the last couple of weeks and the civility that we've had on this discussion. I do think this is about caps and about moderation. Is this an agricultural bill or a Department of Safety and a public health bill? And so with that, I have serious reservations and will vote against it.
Representative Rudder.
I just want to say that I do support this bill, and thank you for bringing it. I do see the beauty of regulating and taxing. To our previous gentleman that just spoke, I have personal knowledge of the pharmaceutical industry and opioids for people that are critically ill. I know that CBD and medical marijuana would be very beneficial, has been very beneficial. People want to talk about caps and regulation and all that, but when you have personal experience with somebody that can get an opioid for pain relief at a drop of a hat, but when it comes to getting some help through the hemp industry or even the marijuana industry, it seems like we lose our minds. I think there has to be a discussion, and we have to get rid of the fear factor. And we have to understand that while this is going to be an ongoing conversation for quite some time, but this product helps people that do not want to be addicted to drugs. And I don't know, I get very emotional about this, and I don't want to do that at this point in time, but I do want to say that I absolutely agree with what you had to say about the opioid crisis and how I believe that this would help. And I do know the beauty of CBD, the hemp industry. I support this bill, and I wish that we all, and I do agree with Representative Vital when he said that the conversation that we've had we've all been very gracious, and I think it's been a very good conversation, but I think we need to continue the conversation with an open mind and less fear. Thank you.
Follow up, Representative Hurd. Or do you need to be recognized? Do you want to be recognized? You're the last one we have on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate all the comments. I appreciate the people coming to speak. This is an interesting subject, and I appreciate you, Mr. Chair, for letting us get to this point and really debate it out because it is such an important issue. Folks, we have a product that we're looking at right now that is federally legal. It's legal. It's on our streets. People are buying it. The cat is out of the bag. We hear about the bad side of this product, but we just had a witness that told us about the benefits people are seeing from this. And to confront the cap, I've been open to entertaining that thought, but when you put a cap on this, like was mentioned earlier, you lose the benefits that our Tennessee citizens are benefiting from. They are benefiting from this product that is federally legal. It comes from a legal product or a legal plant. We have an opportunity to exhaust all benefits of hemp, and this is one big one. We can put it out there, we can regulate it, we can create a foundation around it, and we can create some structure, and we can move forward with a good product that our fellow Tennesseans are benefiting from. It was mentioned, a minute ago about regulating and driving under the influence, and there's always bad actors. There's going to be bad actors in everything, alcohol, whatever. I trust someone 21 and up to make their own choice. I do. I'm for choice. We have a huge opportunity here. If we drive this, make it illegal, or drop it down, it's going to create a black market, which is just going to be another vehicle for fentanyl. That's it. Why not regulate, get the benefits from it, and let our fellow Tennesseans benefit from a plant that is legal? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Question's been called on the bill. We are voting on House Bill 1690 to go to government operations. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Ayes have it. That brings us to item number, I don't know what that item is. Senate Joint Resolution 982. Have a motion and a second. Representative Todd, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this, excuse me just a second here. Get all my papers organized. This is a resolution that just states a position of the General Assembly to request that TVA maintain operation of its coal-fired plants until a reliable backup is developed.
Question on the bill.
Question's been called. Sorry. Question's been called. We're voting on Senate Joint Resolution 892. All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. Goes to calendar and rules. All right, that brings us back to the first calendar on the first bill on the calendar, which happens to be my bill. And I promise to be brief.
Next on the list is item number one, House Bill 2149. Chairman Halford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We're in the proper posture. You have the.
We do have an amendment, House Amendment 14942.
The amendment I have, we have a.
Oh, I'm sorry. 015169.
That's what I have.
Yes, sir,
Now, Mr. Chairman, I believe this was an untimely filed friendly amendment from Chairman Todd. Is that your understanding?
That's my understanding.
That's correct. So this will be an untimely filed amendment. If there be no objections, we'll take this amendment up. Seeing none, all in favor of Amendment 015169?
I'm sorry. Okay.
Make a motion we consider the untimely amendment.
Second. We have a motion to consider the untimely amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Now we're on the amendment.
Okay. Well, I was trying to get my hand up. Do we take untimely amendments?
We just did.
Okay, but have we been taking?
Mr. Chairman, I believe that, Mr. Shaw, I believe the posture of the committee is if 2/3 of the committee agrees to take it, we can take it up.
And I was trying to ask the question before you took it up, but you took it up before you.
I thought. Okay. Well, we have taken the amendment up, and now we're for discussion. Does anybody have Chairman Todd, would you please explain your amendment?
Yes, and I worked with a sponsor on this for the last few weeks, and all this does, it actually simplifies this bill. There was some language in there that I think came from maybe some other type of document when this was drafted that, to me, it kind of complicated it. It put some eminent domain in there and some other things about nonprofits of acquiring property and transferring property, and I've consulted with the governor's office down, and no one knows why that's in there. There was no reason to have it in there, so I floated this draft around that took that out, made it more simple, and no one has found a reason to put it back in. So that's why and then there was a correction on the date to make it go into effect upon becoming law.
We have a question on the amendment. All in favor of putting this amendment on bill HB 2149, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. The amendment is on the bill. Now we'll be voting on the bill as amended. Chairman Halford, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to take the vote if you want.
All right. Question on the bill. All in favor of sending House Bill 2149 to finance as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. On to finance. Chairman Halford, here's your gavel. And
just before everybody leaves and gets out of here, let me make a statement here. This is the last House Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee that I'm going to chair. It's been a privilege. It's been an honor. I've been on this committee ever since I've been here, 14 years. A couple of guys on here have been on there just about as long as I have, one being Representative Hardaway, the urban ag expert, and Representative Shaw down there. So I consider it a real honor to have served with you guys. I think we have done good work. I think this is possibly the best committee in the whole system here. So the decisions we make and that we make and implement here are very, very beneficial to all of Tennesseans, and so I appreciate the work that you've done. I would like to recognize a couple of people. Becky, my staff assistant, is not here today. I'd like to recognize Tanner and Lovin and my intern, Wendy, who has filled in for Becky today. It's you probably saw that this committee could not run without these folks. So I appreciate them very, very much. I appreciate you all very much, and I wish you the very best in all your future endeavors. And with that, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Second. We stand adjourned.